empty table now, with each team having played their opening game. The Netherlands and France on 3 points, Poland on Austria yet to register, but after that performance from Austria, you feel that they'll be a real handful for not only Poland, but they'll also give the Netherlands a real test and are in with every chance of advancing. They may be a little bit deflated after losing so narrowly to the French, who are one of the tournament favourites, but they have an awful lot to be proud of. They really put it up to the French. Richie, I know it's an old school term, but that was a proper game of football.
That was really good. It was great. And I think so many times watching it tonight, our minds cast back to last night.
Yeah.
And so many elements of tonight's game were absent from last night's England game. There was an intensity there. There was a speed. You kind of two teams that are going at it right till the end. And in fairness to Austria, at no point did they look like they were overawed or kind of submissive in any way to a French team, which are vastly superior to them on the park. They all play at a higher level. Really good. Right up until the 99th minute, they were looking for the equaliser. But overall, I think the French probably deserved it. We'll show a highlights package in a moment of the amount of chances that they did create. Mbappe one-on-one didn't even hit the target. Who would have thought we'd be seeing scenes like that? Obviously a concern for them with Mbappe's nose. Didn't look in great shape by the end. We'll talk about that later, but good start. Important 3 points against a team that I think will cause problems for the other two teams in this group.
Definitely, and I think, while Didier Deschamps will probably be relieved having got through what was a real test against Austria, Ralf Rangnick will be very hopeful. And, we've seen teams so far in their first matches, Stephanie, suffer defeats, and it may be hard to lift them. I think Scotland is a case in point, a heavy defeat by Germany. Austria went down. They have no points as well, but it's a narrow defeat. There's so much for them to be encouraged about from that performance.
Yeah, definitely. They showed a lot in that game, as Richie said. When you look at the calibre of player that France have, they didn't look... They matched them all the time. I think France probably did shade it, obviously, with the chances they created. I think that's probably where Austria lacked a little bit of quality in terms of actually creating clear-cut chances. But they went toe-to-toe for 99 minutes, as Richie said, and they really did put in a shift. Every one of their players, even the subs that came on, just worked tirelessly throughout the whole game, and I think they will have a lot to take into the group games. I think they could really give the Netherlands a problem as well, and obviously Poland too. So, look, a really good performance and something to be proud of, but obviously coming away with nothing is not what they want either. No,
certainly not. But Ralf Rangnick, he advocates a high-tempo, high-energy pressing game, and that really contributed to the game being so entertaining, because France never got a moment really to settle on the ball. I mean, they were very good on the ball, it has to be said, and they showed lots of their qualities, but it really helped the game be really interesting to watch.
I think if you're a team and you're set up to play that way, or you go out to play that well, I think you develop over time a personality, which is quite on the front foot. You're going to be very proactive. You're going to kind of deny the opponent as much space as possible and just get at them and not let anyone have their way against you. And that was what they did. There were times in the game where France had the upper hand. France created chances. France would probably come away thinking they should have scored one goal. But all of those elements you would expect of a French team with that quality. But there was no let-up from the Austrians at all.
And I know, Richie, you mentioned that we constantly referred back to what we saw last night in the England-Serbia game. And, sometimes the mind boggles when it comes to match analysis and punditry, how anyone can suggest that last night's performance by England was a good performance. Because when you look at two teams performing well, even though one has walked away from this game with no points, but they walk away with their heads held high and put in a good performance, England didn't do that last night, even though they won the match. Yeah,
I think England were just quite pedestrian, really, weren't they? I think they played with an arrogance as if they were playing really well. Obviously, they won the game and they got the 3 points, but I think watching them and watching France tonight, and again, it probably goes down to how Austria played as well. Austria put them under such pressure that they had to play with an intensity, but England last night definitely just miles off the pace in terms of what France offered tonight.
I love that we're just crowbarring in a reason to have a go at England.
Well, no, we're not actually, because, I mean, all these teams, the good teams, are eventually going to meet in the latter stages of this competition. And it's very, very relevant, because people are saying that was a good England performance. We've seen good performances from Germany. We've seen good performances from Spain. We've now seen a good performance from France, because they've beaten quality opposition. You can't put England, who are among the favourites in the competition, in that category yet.
At the moment you can't. You can put them in the category of big teams with big expectations who win their opening game, which is what you come to the tournament mainly to do, or to start off to do. So they won their game and they kept a clean sheet. So in that sense,
great.
3 points, great. but they have, and we discussed this last night, there's so many conundrums there for Gareth Southgate to look at and to acknowledge that are there, and then to come up with answers. And they're not obvious answers, to be honest, because it means putting people in positions that they may not want to be in, or asking them to do jobs they're not comfortable to do, or put someone with a big name on the bench. There's no obvious solution. But
when you look at those teams there tonight, those managers of both those teams don't have those issues, do they?
No, I think that's been the thing for England, isn't it? It's where do you play Phil Foden? How do you get the best out of them? Yeah. Obviously, Bellingham, I think, done reasonably well last night, but they are the things that Gareth Southgate needs to look at, and what can he do to change their performance from last night going into their next game. It's going to be difficult for him, but I just think the French players just were way ahead in terms of, as I said, their intensity and their quality on the ball when they did have to work under pressure.
Yeah. There's no question marks on that team as to who goes where, or how do they want to play. You know what to expect from the French team, and in fairness, they mostly deliver. Even when they empty their bench and bring on people, there's not a huge dip in quality or a change in shape. It strengthens things often when they make changes. Okay. But the big question is Mbappe, how's his nose?
Yeah. And we'll talk about it and show the incident very shortly. France have beaten Austria by 1-0. That was then, and this is now, and France have had a little bit of better luck this time around. But I suppose, Stephanie, ultimately their victory wasn't down to luck. I mean, they created more chances, they scored the goal in the first half. But let's look at what they produced in the second half.
Yeah, look, they had chances. We knew they would. We knew Mbappe would be a part of that throughout the second half. I think he was the one that looked really dangerous. You can see here as it's played over the top by Rabiot, and as soon as he gets past here, you can see the defender tries to make a tackle, can't get there. As soon as he gets in front here, you're just expecting this to end up in the back of the net, and he drags it wide, and it's just so unlike him. It's a really, really poor miss for a player of his quality. You just expect, as I said, to see it hit the back of the net. Then there's another one here, Mbappe involved again, a lovely ball down the outside for Hernandez, who loves to overlap, pulls it back, and Griezmann just inches away from getting a touch on it, and it going into the back of the net, and then to follow up then from Kante, who gets a good strike, or a poor strike, should I say, and it's blocked from the defence. Again, here it's Dembele, who I think had a really quiet game. It comes down the line for Thuram, takes it on the turn. Again, all kind of little snapshots and half chances from Thuram. I think he had a couple of moments in the second half where he's shown he can be a goal threat. Hernandez, again, as I said, down that left-hand side was brilliant. Camavinga gets on it here, and it comes down the line. Thuram makes a good run inside, gets at him, and again, you think he's maybe just going to bend it into that far corner, and he just doesn't get the contact on it, and just too much power through it. But they just had so many opportunities in terms of, we talked about the quality of players they have. They will create opportunities, and credit to Austria, they don't give up on it. You can see they're constantly chasing, trying to put pressure on. Here you can see it gets pulled back to Thuram. He just can't get enough contact on it because there's a defender straight on him. And this one here as well comes back to Giroud. He has a little bit of a tussle with the defender and just can't quite get connection on it. But we talked about it after the game. Austria will feel a little bit unlucky, but France did have some good chances throughout that game. And
they did have some good chances, and Richie, and watching those chances going through, what really struck me was, despite the fact it was a package about France and their proficiency in attack, the hard work that the Austrians were doing meant that that those chances didn't end up in the back of the net. They ended up as decent chances and created, but the French players were always under pressure. They were always being tightly marked.
They were, yeah. I mean, there's so many things to that package, like the really clever, good, highly technical play by French players in limited space, being overcrowded at times, which is, to compare it to last night, we didn't see that at all. But yeah, you're right. I think the Austrians gave absolutely everything for their manager tonight.
Yeah, very admirable for performance, despite the fact that they don't get anything out of it. But let's have a look at the chances, particularly in the first half. Baumgartner, we're going to have a look at this chance again, because this was a real chance for them to get an equaliser.
Yeah, look, Baumgartner's making a name for himself. We know what he's capable of doing. But this came in the first half, and it's a brilliant layoff there by Sabitzer. You can see the replay here. It falls perfectly in his path. The goalkeeper's in the 6-yard box, comes out and does really well. You have to credit the goalkeeper here. He comes out and makes himself big, but you'd be very annoyed at yourself if you didn't finish there. And we spoke so often about Austria closing down French players when they're trying to play out. Hernandez here was caught by 3 players surrounding him. Almost ended up into the path of Baumgartner. I think that ball there was just a little bit overhit. I think he was entitled to go for it, but he ended up clobbering the goalkeeper. And this is all about N'Golo Kante. If Wimmer here breaks away, you think, is he got the legs to get away? And not at all when Kante is there. Like that kind of covering and that anticipation, or the engine, or the determination to get there. Remember I mentioned at the start the personality of the fella. Yes, as long as you're injury free and fully fit and you're playing regularly, there's no questions about whether or not you'll come in and do a shift, or if you're him, because of what we know about him. That was just one example of many we could have shown tonight.
Yeah,
He's
we
brilliant.
did ask the question before the tournament started. The quality of players who decided to spend the latter part of their career now over in Saudi Arabia making a few badly needed quid. Would it affect their attitude? Would it affect their approach to the game? But certainly it hasn't affected N'Golo Kante.
Not at all. And Mitrovic last night is another player. Serbia had a couple of players. Saudi Arabia, the league has signed players from all over Europe at this stage, but Kante is not a player at all that you can accuse of lowering standards or being a mercenary or having priorities other than playing football or winning or doing well. None of those questions can be thrown
and in fact,
at him.
just to prove our point, he's just been announced as the player of the match this evening in Dusseldorf. So N'Golo Kante, a fine outing for France. Now, one thing that typified French play at a lot of major tournaments recently was their breaks, Richie, and we saw it on a few occasions again this evening, that again they're very dangerous. Okay, they let you have the ball, but they counter very quickly once they win it back. Yeah,
there's a feature of the French playing. We've seen it in successive tournaments now. They're not overly aggressive when you have the ball. They almost give you the sense that they're okay with you having it to a point. And then like this, if they win it back, is it 1, 2, 3, 6 players there in the picture? The speed and the purpose with which they counter-attack in numbers can be lethal as well. Here, Austrian attack broke down on the edge of the 18-yard box. Look how quickly they break. And here you just think, now, chip him now, just lob him now. And he didn't. And then all of a sudden, Austria are back and the danger is averted. But that's one thing they can do at ease, counter-attack with real purpose.
Yeah, and it'll probably be very effective against lesser teams, putting in less effort than Austria did this evening. Only one down point from a French point of view this evening, and that was Mbappe's, what apparently looks like a badly broken nose, and we're not too sure really how long this will keep him out, because they play again on Friday.
Yeah, it looked a sore one, didn't it? I think when we seen the close-up of it, it didn't look too pretty.
Not pleasant, no.
You can see it here as the ball comes in. He goes bravely, looks to try and head the ball, and it's just on the turn, he just catches the shoulder of Dance in the back line, and it's a nasty one. You can see it when the close-up at the end here. It's a difficult one to see him coming back. It's Friday, we've got 4 full days. Will he need to have surgery on it? Will he be able to wear a mask and come back in and play? I'm sure he'll want to. I'm sure he'll want to come back and play, but it's such a nasty one, isn't it? And I don't really want to see this picture at the end myself now. It's a bit squeamish, but look, it's a big thing. It's
definitely a little bit out of shape.
And this here, they were acting the maggot a little bit, and they got caught out. You can see what they were attempting to do. Austria were causing them trouble up the other end. They thought strategically, just get on the pitch, go down, delay the game, stop the play, so you'll have to get treatment. And the referee saw through it all and said, you're not allowed to come on the pitch without getting permission from me. And correctly booked them. So between the missing the one-on-one goal, having the broken nose, the injured nose in some way, and getting the booking, it wasn't a great start for Mbappe.
No, but he will be anxious to get back though, Stephanie, won't he? I mean, he's the captain, he's their talisman, he's so important to the side.
Of course,
he really wants to do well at these Euros.
He will want to play, of course, but it just will be interesting to see what the doctor says and what can be done to get him back right for Friday.
Yeah, we've been big enough France, quite rightly, for their performance. But, at the end of the day, it was an own goal that decided the game today. And a little bit unlucky on Vober, who was substituted during that second half. But I suppose he did instinctively what most defenders would do, didn't he? Yeah,
I think it was an unfortunate way to go down. Obviously, as I said, they played really well in that first half as well. Dembele's coming down the right-hand side and he wins it back and comes back. And you can see, as it falls to Mbappe, you just see the players with fear in their eyes. You know what he's going to do. He has the pace to kill you, and he just takes a little touch around and puts a dangerous ball across the box. And I think Richie said at half-time, you can see the player gets in his way almost, and he just hits him in the head and goes in. It's so unfortunate to go down a goal at that time of the game as well. Coming in at half-time was unfortunate for them, but it was a difficult night for him, wasn't it?
You'd be sick, wouldn't you? You think of all the other ways in which they managed to keep France out, whether it was the counter-attacking, the pace by Mbappe, shooting from Thuram, all the other ways at which they went at the Austrian goal, and they were up to every challenge. And a jammy set of pictures like that. I mean, it was a mistake by Moen.
He gave the ball away, didn't he?
The scenario shouldn't have even presented itself. It was of their own making, and then you can't really predict what happened happening.
So going forward into the group now, as I suggested, as we looked at the table, there's every possibility that Austria will create problems, certainly for the Netherlands.
Absolutely. And I think the Netherlands will offer they will approach the game differently against the Netherlands because they have a different team to the French one. But I think from what we saw from the Netherlands, I don't think you would put them anywhere near the category of that French team so far. So I think, as much as you hear all these phrases, you just don't. You approach your opening game, and as long as you don't lose it, you just don't lose it. But this Austrian team, I won't say that was a heroic defeat. That's too strong a word, but it was a confidence-boosting, morale-boosting defeat, which I think would vindicate a lot of the manager's approach and would tell the players that they're on the right path. That if like that, if certain things went their way, if certain cards fell differently than they did tonight, they'd come away with a point. So I don't think heads would be down in that Austrian dressing room at all. Like, quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah, in fact, they'll very much be looking forward to the next game against Poland, won't they? Because it looks as though, well, Poland are the weakest side in that group now. Yeah,
they'll definitely be the team, I think, coming into the tournament that they would be really trying to get something from. But definitely the performance they put in tonight, I think they will give not only Poland, as I said, but the Netherlands, that gives them a really good game. So it's good, looking forward to some good games.
They're entertaining to watch, aren't they?
Yeah,
Austria?
they are.
They're actually, I think Didi Hamann put them down as his dark horse. Yeah. And they lost. I think Shay Given went for Belgium and they lost, and I went for Ukraine, who today lost as well. So the three of us have been wiped out in our opening games of all. But you could see why you would back Austria as a team that isn't expected to win, mightn't be too predicted to go too far, too deep in the tournament by too many, but possibly could.
Yeah, is it fair to suggest that this was a really good opening test for France? Almost an ideal way to start the tournament. They weren't up against whipping boys or anything like that. They faced a very stern test. They had to dig in. They had to work hard for each other. They had to be technically sound. And they ticked an awful lot of boxes for the manager. Didier Deschamps must be delighted, actually, with that performance.
I think he would be. I think even in, going back constantly referencing previous tournaments, but even when the French team have come off the pitch having won maybe by a goal, or maybe not looking spectacularly good, or maybe even their best players not shining, there was always a sense that winning was enough. Even winning by one was enough, and getting the job done was something they were always capable of doing, and that was enough. So I think tonight there'll be loads of things to be pleased about. Not only the clean sheet and the 1-0 win, he got a few subs off the bench as well to get on, but I think the big concern, and we're kind of spoofing here if we're trying to predict the consequences of it, but the injury to Mbappe there at the end. Like, if you imagine a tournament now without Mbappe for the next few games, or with Mbappe, that's an enormous swing. That's huge. I think there's enough in the rest of the squad. They shouldn't worry, particularly after the 3 points tonight. Yes. They're going to get out of the group. And I think the second round fixture, I think, is favourable. I don't think they'll get a big hitter in the second round because of the way the draw is. But whether Mbappe is in your team or not in a couple of weeks when you're playing a quarter-final, that's a crucial factor. Yeah,
it is, and I agree. But what I will say in argument to that, they do have Olivier Giroud, who never ever lets France down and always comes up with goals at the major championships. So if you need a good replacement, he's not a bad one to call upon, is he? Yeah, he's not too bad, is he? And I think Deschamps trusts him as well. I think he could probably just put Thuram out on the left-hand side maybe and have Giroud as your centre-forward. So they do have options. I think Griezmann got kind of bet up tonight as well a little bit, didn't he? So obviously got the bang on the head and he seemed to hurt his knee. So he'll be another one that I'm sure they'll be looking to try and make sure he's OK for the next game too. Yeah, and he tossed his hair as well. Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty bad night. Didn't want that bandage on for too long, did he? No, he certainly didn't. OK, but overall a very satisfactory start to the Euro campaign by France.